Everyone seems to feel the same way right now. So I'm making this video to answer what's next, at least in my feed, right? And I'm not like doom, gloom, misery number one kind of guy, but what I'm seeing is a lot of, misery, a lot of sadness, a lot of maybe depression, a lot of just like negative things. And it reminds me of Facebook, which I may be dating myself, but I don't use it nowadays just to look through feed or what people are up to. I think that's what people are using, maybe Instagram nowadays, and both are owned by Meta. Point being, on Facebook, very specifically, right? There was a point where everything was like terrorism, just like really, gore. You're talking like violence, like you're talking about all this nonsense, right? And it's basically was a way which psychologically makes sense, right? Why are thumbnails or certain things for you to click, right? It's because it grabs your attention. And as humans, the brain, right, it's wired to protect, is the understanding, or to survive the longest. So anything that's a threat, it's like red alert, like literally the red color, right? It'll be like, oh my gosh, right? Or even like YouTube itself, right? Is, yes, a red colored icon. But when you look at a lot of thumbnails online, like red is like, okay, that is, AKA blood. So that's the most thing that, you immediately, your brain just concentrates on. So all of this to say, I was like, okay, I get the why, right? We get the psychology, capitalism, whatever reasons, I get it, right? But there must be some truth to it, in my opinion as well. Like, yes, the titles can be a little crazy, thumbnails can be crazy, but when you hear people talk, right, their experience, their burnout from their corporate job, their, I cannot afford, kids because X reason, or hey, you're just broke, right? So if you're broke in society, the fact is, yeah, unfortunately, finding a partner that's willing to be with you, there's unconditional love and then there's everything else, right? And the world we live in, like, it's set up like this today. So the point of this is that I'm seeing these videos as basically a reflection of society. Like, that's what the algorithm is. It's pretty much the personalization algorithm, which its literal definition is, hey, it's meant for you. The thing is, I'm not really digesting this type of content, but clearly I am, which is like a weird thing to say, right? Because there's self help, like improving yourself. Like that's the type of sphere that I think about. And self help, not in the, oh, my life sucks. I'm in the, the ditches, the dump, rock bottom, whatever expression. I'm there and I'm trying to, level up. Like it's not like that. It's, hey, you may be, normal functioning, whatever person, but you just want to excel, be the best version of yourself. So that's what I identify with. So I'm making this video because there's a lot of everything else where it's like there's no point of excelling because what's the point of that? Because what's the point of life if you have to work to live? You're just kind of surviving, which is kind of the old school way of, hey, you literally are surviving by, catching your own food, right? Hunting it down, eating it. And then we discovered fire, then cooking it, right? And all this stuff, right? So the point is right there. What is the point, right? That's kind of what I'm seeing from everyone who's basically either choosing to opt out of the system or they've, just thought to themselves like, hey, if I learn maybe some skills, what's the point? Because there's not enough jobs out there. Or if, there was a job for everyone, there's still enough people that are like, you can say there's one side saying there's grateful for having a job, right? You have money, you have cash flow, whatever. And then the other side, it's like, what is this slavery, right? Why am I here? Why do I need to do this to then afford rent, to afford groceries, which are only ballooning up, gas, oil, electricity, water, all of this stuff, right? So the end all be all, that at least I will say it this way, right? There's fact and then there's emotion, right? So in other words, the rational and then the more emotional side, right? So subjective versus objective, all the fancy terms out there. Answer is this in my personal perspective. It sucks. It fucking blows what's going on right now because the problem here is very simple. When you're younger, the training and thinking that is put onto us is what? It is literally in elementary school, it's you can be, oh, I'm acting or playing the President of the United States. Oh, I'm acting or playing, right? A member of, the CEO of some technology company, right? Or, hey, I'm doing this. So the point is, I'm going to call it as it is. It's like gaslighting where you tell, the younger generation, which is amazing, right? You can do anything. But the fact is, you get this happy life, right? Until like, in America, at least traditionally, it's like 18, right? Depends on where you are in the world. But like at 18, it's kind of like you're on your own. You can vote. You can't drink, but you can go to the army. You can do all this nonsense, right? So like age is just a number, right? But that number is very important because it's kind of that benchmark of time that tells us, hey, by this age, I should be doing this. Oh, in my 20s, I'm going to live in New York City and I'm going to do blah, blah, blah. And by 25, hopefully I'm settled down, and I'm saying maybe a little traditional, because I'm in my 30s right now, so maybe, the teenagers, they may think differently, right? They're opting out of marriage. They're opting out of, why should I even have kids? What's the point? I can't afford them. I'll have a dog, and I love my dog until the end of days, right? Like, that's a different perspective, which I don't relate with that, right? But what I do relate with is kind of like where I see the older generation, right? And they're like, how can you live together without getting married? Why don't you have kids before this age? Like, this and that, like a lot of traditional values, right? Go to college, right? You'll get a job, and this is the path, like if you study to become a doctor or a pharmacist, like that's all you need to do, right? Like the ending is clear, right? Lawyer, doctor, engineer, as many Indians and Asian households preach. But the inverse of that, as I've seen literally in front of my eyes, is I have friends who are on the doctor path, they hate it. And so when it comes time for residency or certain things like this, where they're literally talking to other doctors who, in the end of the day, just like corporate America, it's just a person who's like, hey, I'm looking at you, seem like a nice guy. Can I see myself working alongside you and obviously using you as a resource over the next X years? Like, are you an asshole or are you a nice guy? Because if you have a brain, right, which you prove through, let's just say, traditionally you go to college, you got a degree, your GPA, your work experience, because you told somebody else, I can do the thing, and they gave you a shot, and now you have that credibility to get the next interview. Now it comes down to basically that decision maker, right? Point is, nobody wanted to even be that being the end goal. Like, they wanted maybe the outcome. I'm not saying everyone. There's a lot of people who want to go to Africa and help all the people because there's no systems there for whatever, and do first aid for free and all this stuff, right? But like, the reality is the government and the system will put it on the human, right, on our emotions, to say we are the ones to do the solving of the other people's problems. But it's actually Africa's fault that their government is such, right? And as America, obviously we power, as I define it, and as it's a famous quote, right? It's like power is not given, it's taken or stolen or whatever. And so similarly, America, right? World's reserve currency, the dollar. It's actually a blessing to be in America. And that's not like an immigrant thing being said, like, I was born here and all the things, right? Yet, now, right, when you see the rest of the world, right, it's kind of like, oh, wow, our dollars can afford such a better life, like abroad, right? But the issue is you still have to earn the dollars, right? So it comes back to, okay, I have to work, to then think about how I need to work, and like, I'm never going to have enough money, let's say, to buy a house or have $1 million portfolio in the stock market, right? Like, I don't have those beliefs, but a lot of people have that. And I'm not saying a million goes as it used to, right, prior, but if you say, hey, you get 4% return on $1 million is $40,000 a year after tax, maybe you're keeping whatever that math is, right? And you can live comfortably abroad, right? But in America, you tell someone, hey, I'll give you a couple grand a month, you can do nothing, you can't work, but here's a couple grand. That doesn't really work unless maybe you have a dual income, no kids, or maybe you have someone bankrolling you or taking care of you, or you just live in maybe the middle of nowhere, and I don't know where the prices are in Arkansas or Wyoming or Wisconsin or whatever, right? So I'm also like a city guy. Like, I'm competing, or my standard is, hey, I've never been away from the airport. Like, a ride to the airport is never 20 minutes away. I use this filter in my life, like, oh, the closest IKEA to me, oh yeah, it's 20 minutes away, right? Maybe half an hour, whatever. But the point is, I'm never really away from maybe, the city type of thing, whether you call it New York, California, based out of Atlanta, Georgia, right? And Atlanta was nothing 10 years ago, and now it's a little more something. I'm not saying it's the best city, and that's not the topic of this video. The topic of this video is to say, everyone's feeling something, right? And all those feelings. But this video is to say one simple thing. I'm also a human, just like everyone else. But it's all up here in the mindset. Because if you stay in that same frequency mindset thinking, right, of just being a loser or being like nothing is gonna, be good for me in the future, yeah, you can have a lot of fun talking with a lot of people who feel the same way. But eventually you have to graduate from that community. You have to say, like, okay, like, do you want to actually progress your life, or are you comfortable, I'm going to say it, bitching and complaining and moaning? Like, that's what I say. And I'm not saying life is easy, and I'm not saying, I'm holier than thou. No, I'm saying I put in a lot of work with no guarantees, and here I am today after so much trial, error, tribulations and pain and misery and sorrow. But I'm saying there is light. But if you go back to what's the point, right? When there's light, it's like, so cool. You see the light at the end of the tunnel, but like, you get there and then what, right? And that's the effed up part about the brain, because the brain is still looking out for risk mitigation. It's looking for survival at its finest, which means what? It means even when you get to the tippy top of that mountain, you're a trillionaire. The issue is it will say, wow, people are going to come for you. People are going to attack you. People are this, that, and the other. So in other words, now you have risk, right? You still have risk at the top to maintain that level of whatever you were trying to do. Obviously, I'm talking about money and wealth. But if you look at 3 pillars of happiness, health, wealth, relationships, guess what? Health you can't really control, like other than maintaining it, right? Like age keeps on going. It's out of our control because time is out of our control, right? In the 3rd dimension as we are. Wealth, yeah, there's no guarantees. There's a little luck involved. And the most luck, obviously, just because you're born under, let's say, one of the wealthiest people, yeah, chances are your life is that much better is what people think. But I've seen that life and they have no choice because they're stuck at the top, which sounds really like, oh, boo-hoo, right? You have a Lambo and a Bugatti and you don't. But the thing is, the human, man, it wants to be, let's say, free, like a monkey, like a dog, like I was saying, just roaming about, lying in the grass. Why do we work? Why do we need to show up in suit and tie? Why am I, let's say, I'm not a billionaire son, but let's say I was. And, I need to show up to this stupid, it's like social gatherings just to show face, right? To show the family picture as all these government officials, like it's trying to show, wow, they have a strong family, wow, they have a good family, oh, nice people, good. It's all crap, man. It's all made up. It's just humans gaslighting each other into saying, I'm a nice guy, you're a nice guy, are you a nice guy too? I'm a nice guy, oh, let's hang together. And then later, oh, let me badmouth about this guy to that next guy, and let me look better in front of them, and it's all just stupid, because once you figure out the money game, it's kind of like, it's all just emotional. It's all literally like subjective, just why you see in the shows like Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I've never really watched it, but I've seen clips that just argue with each other and all that because money's not an issue, right? And health is like, sure, there's plastic surgery and augmentations and blah, blah, blah. But like the relationship, man, if that's not strong, it's donezo. And I'll tell us one last thing, which is going to contradict probably this whole video, right? It's the fact that I've seen in my own personal family that when we are working together and have worked together, so I'm saying like I've seen poverty, I've seen wealth, I've seen poverty, different, over the lifetime. And when we are literally working together to get to the next step, right? It's like, hey, there's mother, father, myself, I have a brother, like, okay, guys, like, all right, I got this job, all right, cool. How can we use this to do this? Okay, if we have good credit, all right, we got some money for a down payment. Okay, hey, this house is being taken away due to eminent domain, which is a real thing. So what happened in my life is the government was like, hey, there's a philanthropic reason. There was a church. They wanted to expand it across this whole block. So they, demolished the home was the agreement, and we were renting from the landlady. So the understanding was like, hey, we have to move out. And it was very sudden. But overnight, because of good credit, right, prepared for the moment. This is the whole preparation meets luck. And bought a home like overnight because there's nothing there. Now, it is a mortgage and you can say debt and all this stuff, but like that's typically what's happening today. But before, I guess you could buy a house in cash, right? So those days, they still are here today, right? But how much cash do you need? You're talking hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, right? Depending on where you're living. So all of that to say, best times in life is, yes, the journey. When you're commiserating, when you're watching a lot of crap content and then there's comments, everyone saying like, yeah, this sucks, that sucks. It feels good. It feels like you're in your bubble of the internet and it feels happy. You can live in the virtual world, right? And like, I'm also one of those people. I just live on a different planet within the whole universe of everything. So I'm making this video to say, for anybody who's watching like all of that type of content, and I'm telling us like, you're not alone, I also do. But every time I watch it, I'm like, no, like if I could talk to that person, I'm like, dude, like, or if it's a woman, right? Like it doesn't matter. Like I want you to better yourself for yourself, because in the end, you can still have fun throughout every step of life, because if nothing's guaranteed, right? But you're not going to end your life, then you have to play. And if you have to play, you can play with stress. You can play with your feelings of like, yeah, I'm a shitty player. I suck at this. And I'm going to get to the end or not, I don't know. But if you just play, right? If you have no expectations, right? You just play. Because if you think you're not going to land anywhere in the end, who cares, man? Just play. Just have fun with it. Screw it. Fuck it. You know what I mean? And if you have to get some goal and you don't, that's the whole, hey, expectations and happiness. Like when you expect something but it doesn't happen, you're not happy. But when you expect nothing and you get something, you're happy. So if you think you're not going to get jack shit, do it. Just do it. That's my advice, guidance, whatever you want to say. So yeah, Thanks for coming to the end. See you in the next one. Like, share, subscribe. All the things. Catch you there.